So, last week we talked about the 5th anniversary for the Power Rangers 2017 movie. This week is the 25th anniversary for Turbo, a Power Rangers movie. And this movie here, I've got a lot of nostalgia for this movie. I remember seeing this movie in the cinemas when I was a kid and loving it. I remember watching it over and over again on VHS, and I probably wore out that VHS tape with how many times I watched it. But this movie, love it or hate it, I've got a lot of nostalgia for this movie. And even though people have torn this movie a new arsehole thousands of times, I'm always going to have a soft spot for it in my heart. Now, fun fact, this movie came out on March 28th, 1997. But for me in Australia, I had to wait over a whole year to see this movie. And this is the early days of internet, so I had no idea that this movie was probably coming out until I saw advertisement for it. But I had to wait until September 17th, 1998 to see this movie. Over a whole year. That is crazy. Crazy times. Now you guys are lucky with streaming services how we all get things at the same time. Back then, early days of internet, early days of film, early days of video game, there would always be a big gap between seeing stuff around the world compared to other places. It was a crazy time back then. And I remember seeing this in the cinema when I was really young. I think my mum took me, she took my brother. I think maybe my friend Sharpie tagged along back then. I can't remember. I invited him to come see it. But I remember the cinema being completely empty back then. I remember it was like only who I mentioned earlier, and probably some guy in the back. And God knows what he was doing back there, but I remember just this movie cinema being really, really empty when I went to go see that movie. But enough about old childhood memories. Let's talk about how I feel about this film as an adult. How do I feel about this film 25 years later? Now, I rewatched this movie on Disney Plus to refresh my memory, and looking back on this movie, I don't think it's terrible as everyone else says it is. Like, all those reviewers, like your nostalgia critics yelling caras and stuff like that. I don't think this movie is downright terrible. I can understand what people's problem was with this movie, and I feel the same way. Like, this movie was strange to be the gap or the bridge between Zeo and Turbo, because they could have done it in the TV show instead of maybe making a movie about it. But there is all the stories about this movie where there's a 3-hour cut of it, and there's all this deleted footage lying around somewhere for us to discover eventually, and 25 years later, none of this footage has been uncovered. And footage like that is Divatox destroying the Zeo Zords and tearing them apart. There's this cool fight scene on the beach with Johnny Youngbosh, and he falls in love with a mermaid and stuff like that. There's like a bunch of other deleted scenes in this movie, and I do wonder if we got that 3 hours Turbo director's cut, maybe that would have fixed all the other plot, like all the plot lines that people complain about. Even though the movie would have been super long, maybe if they left some of the stuff in there, it would have made sense, because, again, it doesn't make any sense why they get given the turbo powers when their Zeo powers work perfectly fine. They didn't really need to transition the new powers. The Zeo powers grew powerful over time, so why did they have to transition to those powers? And then I'm probably going to get a comment asking me the same thing. Why do you think they did it? And I'll say, I don't know. But I think the movie is just a fun action Power Rangers adventure stuff. And like I said, I saw this at like 8 years old or something when I was a kid. So seeing characters like Jason and Kimberly in this movie was really cool as well. I think those cameos or those appearances could have spent more time on them, but they were just sort of like little screen time here and there. Some cool fight scenes with them in that movie. And not only that, we also got some really cool original Zord footage in this movie as well, with the fight between Malagor and the Turbo Megazord. That was really cool as well. And I feel like one scene that's always going to stand out for me because of the atmosphere and how freaky it was for me as a kid is that scene on the boat at nighttime with the weird eggs. That scene is always going to stand out to me with how creepy it is and how weird those monsters look because you can't see them properly because it's in the dark. That scene is always going to stand out for me as well. Alright, I feel like I got to talk about Justin. Justin, I don't hate. I mean, I didn't hate the idea of a kid being a Blue Ranger when I watched this because I was a kid, so I ate that shit up, and Rocky hurting himself, I was like, oh no, Rocky, and then they had a new Blue Ranger, so that was really cool for me as a kid. But looking back on it, I do watch that scene where Rocky flips over the ring and just flies out. He just does 20 backflips and then lands on his back. It's funny watching it now, that scene, with how overdramatic it is, but like, I don't hate Justin like some people do. I mean, yeah, the character is weirdly written in the TV show, and how much of a Gary Stewie can be some of the times, but it is what it is. I always do like looking at those what-if scenarios if Rocky stayed on the team, like if Rocky was in the Turbo movie or in the Turbo TV show, how different would it have been? I don't know, I'm guessing if Rocky stayed around with everyone else, he would have retired in the Passing the Torch episode. So Rocky would have stayed around for just a little bit longer before like passing it on to a brand new Blue Ranger. And maybe that would have been Justin, who knows, but either way, looking back on the whole Rocky backflip scene, it's very silly, very comedic. I've got no problem with it. Now, this movie did introduce Divatox and her crew and Hilary Shepard as Divatox. Lots of fun indeed. But I kind of wish we got to see those deleted scenes of Divatox taking down the Zeo Megazords. That would have shown her to be a big, intimidating threat for our Rangers instead of being overly over-the-top dramatic and comedic and stuff like that. Like, seeing a serious side like that where she can easily take out the Zeozords, that would have shown how much of a threat she could be. From what I remember in the leaks, I could be wrong in these deleted scenes, she's meant to grow really big and just wipe out the Zords like they're nothing. From what I remember, or she fires a missile at them. I don't remember the scene off by heart, but that would have been really cool to see Divatox taking out all the Zeozords like they were nothing, and apparently they get like torn up really badly, like you see Zord limbs all over the beach. That would have been cool. That would have been really cool. But I'm hoping one day we can see all those deleted scenes we've heard about. They are out there, they did happen. Johnny Youngbosch has talked about them at conventions and stuff like that, and in interviews, so they do exist. They do exist. All those deleted scenes, like Tommy using the flamethrower against the crocodile and stuff like that, that all happened. It's just lost somewhere in a vault, and hopefully it's still preserved very nicely so we can see it eventually. But those deleted scenes are out there, and hopefully one day we can see them. I was hoping when Shout Factory got the Blu-ray rights to the Turbo movie, those deleted scenes would resurface, but unfortunately they did not. But one can dream, maybe we'll see those deleted scenes someday, but that'd be nice. So, what do you guys think of the Turbo, a Power Rangers movie? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Do you have any nostalgic memories with this movie like I do? Tell me in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear them. With that said, I'm going to bring this video to a close. If you enjoyed this video, hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and don't forget to leave a like. Special thanks to all the members such as Swaggerthorn, Andrew McCoyle, and the Power Bunny, who's a $30 member. If you want to get your name shouted out like these guys over here, hit the join button and become a Patreon supporter for special perks and stuff like that on the channel. With that said, I'm bringing this video to a close. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful day or night, and I'll see you guys later. Peace out, take care. Bye.